Jeremy Corbyn, the Russian Federation Council have just announced that they are sanctioning Russian military action in Syria. Are there any circumstances under which you would agree to bombing ISIL targets in Syria?
I'm not sure it's going to work, and so I am unpersuaded of this situation, because I do think there has to be a ceasefire between the warring factions in the rest of Syria first, and I wonder what the Russian motives are in this. Are they defending Assad, or are they actually fighting ISIL? I think that's a question that has to be asked.
And you would vote no as of now?
Well, as of now, as I said, I'm unpersuaded. We don't know what the resolution is going to eventually get out of the UN, or what the final decision is going to be there, or indeed what will be brought to the House of Commons in 2 weeks' time.
Are you fundamentally a pacifist?
I'm not totally a pacifist. I see war as an absolute disaster, and I see use of force and threats of force as an absolute last resort.
But as a last resort, you would sanction if it had to happen?
I would need a lot of persuading, but I do think we have to try and find some way forward, but also in the longer term look at the causes of war and the causes of instability and the causes of injustice in the whole region, not just what's happening in Syria at the moment. Appalling as the situation is, but we also need more support for the refugees from Syria.
One commentator has suggested that any aspiring Prime Minister has to be prepared to stand up to Mr. Obama and be prepared to work constructively with Mr. Putin. Are you up for that?
What I want to do is to develop a foreign policy that has an emphasis on human rights, justice and development around the world. Does it mean I would always agree with Obama? Well, he won't be president by then anyway, but no. Does it mean I agree with President Putin and his human rights record in Russia? No. Does it mean I think we should have a constructive dialogue with both Russia and the United States? Absolutely yes, because we have to try and de-intensify the militarism on both sides of the border between both Ukraine and Russia, but also Poland and Russia and the Baltic states and Russia.
How strong is that I? Who decides policy? Is it conference? Is it you? Is it MPs? Is it this extraordinary influx of people into the party? It's very difficult to determine who would actually say, this is what we're going to do.
We are a hugely expanded party. We are changing our ways of decision making. There's going to be much more policy making and power to the grassroots and to conference than there was in the past.
You'll delegate your MPs, for example?
Essentially, there's been a rebalancing of power. Now, MPs are in a special position, and a special position of trust. I hope they'd recognise the wishes and the views and the values of conference and the wider movement, but ultimately they have to make their own decisions. We have to make our own decisions on how we're going to vote in Parliament. But
you could take Trident as an interesting example. I mean, 95 Labour MPs voted against it last time. Do you think even now you have a majority of Labour MPs against it?
To be quite honest, I haven't done a trawl of the views of all Labour MPs. I'm well aware of the views of some, particularly those that strongly assert either a pro-Trident or an anti-Trident position. I think there are a number of discussion points on Trident. One is, would you ever use it? Secondly, the cost of it. Thirdly, the impact of cancelling it and the way you could invest that money in high-skill manufacturing industry using the same workers. And fourthly, the issue of the legality of it, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and the fact that there are only 8 countries in the world that have nuclear weapons, the 5 declared ones, plus India, Pakistan and Israel. Can't we be part of the vast majority that wants to bring about a nuclear-free world? I think us not renewing Trident would be such a massive signal and such a massive fill-up to the movement towards a nuclear-free world. We've already reduced the number of warheads, and indeed other countries have as well.
Let me ask a question that arises from Mr. Cameron in Jamaica. The Jamaican Prime Minister has talked to him about reparations for slavery. Should we pay them?
I think it's a very interesting proposal.
Well,
I'll just come to that. I spent my youth in Jamaica, and the culture of Jamaica is an amazing and fantastic place. The wealth of this country that came from Jamaica, it was the jewel in the empire's crown, and the wealth of the City of London came from there. We owe a lot to the Jamaican people.
I want to hear a yes or a no.
No. Well, it isn't a yes or a no answer. It's too simplistic. The issue has to be, how do we treat Jamaica? How do we trade with Jamaica? How do we support Jamaica? How do we invest in Jamaica? Do we recognise that We as a colonial power had a huge impact on that island. We made a great deal of money out of it. I think we owe a lot to Jamaican people.
But how do we manifest that owing?
We can owing it. We can manifest it by better trade relations with Jamaica, because we've actually cut them off quite a lot since we've been in the European Union.
I've got a no to reparations.
Can we invest in Jamaica as part of a recognition of the money we made out of Jamaica in the past? I think yes, we can.
Just finally, do you understand why 15 million people voted for UKIP or the Tories at the last election?
I think people vote for lots of reasons. You can't look in the head of everybody and find how they vote. But what I do think is that they voted for a view that somehow or other their world and society was going to be better off, and individually they might be better off under a Tory government. They are now seeing what the reality is in only a few weeks since the general election, of tax cuts for the wealthy, tax cuts for the corporations, tax breaks for the hedge funds, cuts in the tax credits available for the poorest in our society. The Tories are at it again, helping the rich and hindering the poor.
Jeremy Corbyn, thank you for talking with us.